All right, welcome back to the SSL Family Dad channel. Today we are talking all about late start gardening. All right, so here you are, late in the summer, as it is here today, July in Michigan, and you haven't planted a garden yet, or you're just moved into a new house, or who knows what the circumstances are. Maybe you got attacked by a pig and had your leg injured during gardening season, or something crazy like that happened, and you weren't able to plant a garden. And so now it's the middle of the summer, and you're thinking, what can I do? I'd like to start a garden. What can I plant? And so here today we're going to talk about our late start garden here. We're going to kind of share what I have planted and how we have things planted, but what can you plant this late in the year, late July even, or early August. Now we are in Michigan, as I said, so this is mainly for the northern states that have a early frost date, maybe sometime in October, and so you don't really have too much growing season left. All right, so what do you need to consider with a late start garden? Well, before we get into the things that you can plant or should plant, there's a couple other factors that you just want to consider when you're planting a midsummer garden. Number one, it's hot. It is hot in the middle of the day, and so you wanna, you're gonna wanna adjust the times that you're out in the garden. As you can see from this video, we've been out here planting mainly in the evening before the bugs come out, but when the sun is down like it is now, and so we're not getting direct sunlight, we're not out planting in the middle of the sun. You also want to remember that you're going to need to water a lot heavier to get those seeds to germinate. And so once you get everything planted, you want to run a sprinkler in your garden, every single day. If you got a timer, that's great. You can set it for the morning, but you really want to make sure that soil stays moist, because it's going to dry out during the day. So you might even want to water twice. You want to water in the morning, you want to water in the evening or late afternoon, so you keep that soil moist. Once a seed starts to germinate and dries out, many times that can kill off that seed, or it really lowers the chances that it has to break out of the soil and start to get those first leaves formed. And so you really want to make sure that you're keeping everything moist. It's a lot easier in April and May because it's cool, and and the sun's not as especially here in Michigan, it's cloudy still usually, and so you don't have to worry about the soil drying out as much. But that's a big concern. So make sure you keep things moist every single day just after you've planted, and then after things start to sprout, you may want to continue that and keep things wet, because those seedlings are very, very fragile, especially for the first few weeks. All right, so what can you plant? This is the big question, right? What can I plant in my midsummer or late season garden? There's a whole bunch of things that you can plant. We're not really into a fall garden yet, but we're into the summer months, and so there's maybe some different things than you'd plant in a normal fall garden. So some of the things that you should and could plant would be beans and peas. Those are two great ones to plant. We've planted all kinds of beans here. We did plant on a lot of the borders along the paths and things like that. I mounded up the soil along those paths, and we planted a lot of bush beans. Bush beans are super quick growing. They do well in warm temperatures, and they also do well into the cooler temperatures coming in September. They're going to grow and fruit very quick. Within 75 days, you're going to be loaded with beans, and so it's a great thing to plant late in the year. And one of the things that we were able to do here is we had an earlier crop of bush beans that we grew in the greenhouse, and we were able to save a whole bunch of seeds from that harvest and use in our late season summer crop that we're planting here now. And so all the bean seeds that we planted in here, probably hundreds of plants that we have going in here, those were all seeds that we were able to save from earlier this year. So other than bush beans, any of your other bean varieties, we planted, you can see behind us these big teepee looking structures. We're going to try a different kind of trellis system here, and we've planted a whole bunch of pole beans. And so we had some yellow-eyed beans that we planted just all around the bottom of these teepee structures, around the poles and around the whole circumference of the bottom base of these. Kidney beans, as well as some other pole beans, and those will grow just great this time of year. They're another thing that 60 to 70 days, you're going to start to get some beans in that time frame, and they grow real quick, and they do pretty well in warmer or cooler temperatures. And another thing that we were able to plant this year is cucumbers. Now, cucumbers are a great late season crop. They grow very quickly, and they produce cucumbers pretty much continuously until the frost is going to hit. And so we used another one of these teepee structures to plant cucumbers. Now, cucumbers, you can let them vine across the ground if you want to, or you can put them on a trellis and save some space. And we we just used a bunch of sticks and things like that that we had at our pastures to bring up and make this little teepee. And maybe we'll cover it with leather hides at the end of the year, and the kids can camp out in there later. Another great crop to grow in a midsummer garden is any kind of squash. Summer squash, zucchini squashes. There's all kinds of other squash that you can get out there that will grow just fine. They grow very quickly, and you'll be able to harvest them into September and October here in Michigan. So we planted a whole bunch of zucchinis. I just made a whole bunch of mounds over here, and we planted a whole bunch of those zucchinis. And we also have some butternut squash. Butternut squash is, in 60 days, you're going to be harvesting. Same with zucchini. Doesn't take much longer than 2 months. And so we'll be into September, and we'll be harvesting plenty of zucchinis and plenty of squash by then. And the thing I like about those the squash is that they grow with those nice big leaves, and they shade out the areas around them. They keep the weeds down, and so you can really use them as a cover crop almost to just fill in areas that you don't want to have a bunch of weeds growing up. And so they'll produce some food for you and keep the weeds down. Another thing that you can grow is going to be carrots. Now, carrots do take a little bit longer to grow nice, big, long carrots. You can use regular sized carrots, but you may not get them as big. You might be harvesting some thinner or shorter carrots by that time. But they do handle the cold weather really well. Or you can plant like the Denver half-longs and some shorter varieties of carrots, and they actually will be ready to harvest a little bit quicker. So carrots are a great thing. We planted quite a few carrots out here. What I've been doing with these smaller row type crops in the garden is I've been hilling up rows and kind of using the soil in between the rows to really hill up those rows, and then I fill that middle of the row with wood chips. Filling that with wood chips, that allows me to get a good couple inches of wood chip in between the aisles, and then we keep all the weeds down. So we only have to worry about picking weeds really from the hilled area, and it just makes life a lot easier. Couple other things you could grow this late in the season would be radishes. Radishes are like 30 to 40 days and they're ready to go. Most of the time 30 days and you've got radishes. Radishes are super quick to grow, and you can replant those or stagger those all summer long, and you could even plant those in September and they would have time to grow. So radishes are a great one to grow if you like those. We haven't really planted any more here. We just don't use them very much, and so we left those out of the garden this summer. And lastly, there are a whole range of leafy green crops that you can grow easily in this amount of time. All your lettuces, kales, Swiss chard, any other types of all the types of lettuces besides like your iceberg head lettuce, that's not going to have time to grow. But all your leafy lettuces, spinaches, any of that stuff will have plenty of time to grow, and also generally prefers the cooler weather. And so you might even want to wait to plant some of that stuff until maybe August or the first few weeks of August, because it'll have time to kind of start to grow. But then as the temperatures cool down, you'll get that nice, sweet, sugary, crisp leafy greens that you're looking for. They grow great in the cooler weather, and kale especially can handle even a few frosts without dying off. And so you definitely have time to plant that. And we also planted a lot of flowers. We just want to keep all this space in our garden used up. And so if you've got extra space that you're not planting vegetables in, flowers are a great thing to grow. Most of your flowers are going to have plenty of time to grow and start to flower before a frost comes. And so definitely fill in those areas with any flowers that you want. Anywhere you're not growing vegetables or any areas surrounding your garden, things like that, pop some flowers in there and let them grow and attract all the pollinators and butterflies and all that kind of good stuff to your garden. Now, outside of all of those things, there are lots of other vegetables that I'm sure I have left out. And the bottom line is, MI Gardener is where we get almost all of our seeds from. You can go to the MI Gardener site. There's a link in the description. You get an extra 10% off when you buy the seeds. They're only 99 cents a packet anyway. And when you're looking through the site, you can pick out those seeds and just look through. It'll tell you how long they're going to take till their maturity. And if they're anything over 90 to 100 days, you probably want to stay away from them. Anything that says it'll be mature in less time than that, you probably have a pretty safe bet that it's going to grow for you and get you a good harvest before the evil fall frost hits your area. So with that being said, I'm going to take you for just a quick tour through the garden and just kind of show you how everything's planted in here together, and then we'll send you on your way to get some seeds and start planting your own summer garden. So along the pasture here, we've got all these hills that we've put in, so you can see them all the way down there. That's all the zucchini. Quite a few of those planted in there. And then I hilled up all along the path and I put bush beans in there. We had all that extra seed I wanted to get in, so that'll create kind of a nice border along the path. And then I had a huge bag of wildflower seed mix. So all that area from the fence to these hills is just wildflowers, and all back there by the beehive. So we'll fill that in with wildflowers, let that grow up, and just kind of fill that area in, keep things planted, keep the weeds down, and hopefully it'll look nice too. So just on the other side of the main path there, we've got this small patch, and this is where we've got Swiss chard, and we've got some carrots and lettuce, and then we also are going to order some more spinach seed, and we're going to fill that with spinach. And so again, you see here, I've just kind of hilled up these rows and then kind of almost dug out a spot in the middle where I filled that with wood chips. So that'll keep the weeds down real nice. Also wrapped it right around, and we've done flowers on the ends here on both sides. And because these are all low crops, it's fine to be able to just step right over them and get into the middle aisles and things. Won't have any trouble with that. So we got extra planting space by not closing off the ends of these aisles. And of course we have the teepees for the pole beans and cucumbers. And around the bottom here we've got some of the butternut squash. So I've got hills kind of through the center there and on all the corners, so that'll fill in these areas on the corner, the extra space. I put wood chips in the middle. I also planted some pole beans around the center of that. But what we'll probably end up doing with these is we'll string some twine or something like that around the kind of in a circle around this teepee to allow all the ones that I planted in the middle to be able to grow up in between these poles. Haven't done that yet, but once things kind of start sprouting up, we'll get that installed. Also, as soon as things start sprouting up, we'll get some more wood chips in here and cover these areas so that we can keep the weeds down. And over here, we've got the long rows, same style of planting here. And this is mostly carrots and bush beans. I believe we've got bush beans on each side and then carrots in the middle. And then same thing, we've got flowers on all of the ends. And the new raised beds here we've got on each side of the main aisle coming up to the house. And this year we're filled those all up with different flower mixes. The SSL Family Mom came out and picked out her favorite M.I. Gardner flowers and put those in there. So we'll get those growing for their first year, and they'll be attracting all the pollinators and things to the garden as well. And we also had a few things that we bought. I was in Ace Hardware a few weeks ago, and they had a bunch of tomatoes that were like, it was like $3 for the flat of tomato plants, and they were pretty tall already, so that gave us a little jump start. We've already got a few tomatoes forming on those, and so I think those will do okay. We'll get a little harvest off those tomatoes this year. And then we had all these peppers that we actually did start inside, and they got a little leggy in there, but we actually planted those about a month ago, and so we might get some peppers off those before the frost hits. We'll see. And of course we have all of our blueberry bushes along the path here, and blueberries are one of my favorite fruits. The wood chip paths really do help with the weeds. I mean, we've got a few weeds popping up through this path, but we haven't really done anything with it this year. And so we just come through every once in a while and just pull a few out, and it's not too bad. But we can add some more wood chips to this too. And of course, I've got a lot more wood chips to put in here between all these zucchini hills, but I'm out of wood chips. I got to run and get another batch. So hopefully you enjoyed the late season garden planting here on the SSL Family Farm. And if you guys have questions, or again, if there's anything that I forgot or other crops that you like to grow late in the season, here in the northern states anyway, throw that stuff down in the comments section so everybody can kind of follow through and check things out, and maybe see if there's some other ideas out there, some other things that I've missed. So don't forget to hit the thumbs up button on the video. It makes a big difference for how these videos get ranked in the YouTube search results. And also subscribe, of course, if you'd like to follow along. We've got lots of gardening stuff still coming up, and of course lots of all kinds of other things as well here on the farm. So love to have you join us. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.